That's the Funky Friday at 5 theme, one of its many incarnations. And this is a Funky Friday at 5, and I'm Mitch Hampton, your host. And I'm going to do a little introduction here by way of discussing things that have come up. So there's a wonderful podcast that's actually a Rockford Files podcast, all about the Rockford Files, a TV show, and James Garner. It's called 200 a Day Plus Expenses. And there's two really, really classy gentlemen do it. Jebediah Ravishaw is their name, and Nathan Polenta. I think I got those names. They're tricky names, but they're beautiful names. Nathan Polenta and Jebediah Ravishaw are the co-hosts, and they've been doing every single episode of the Rockford Files. And they mentioned our podcast. I'm listening to the most recent episode about the episode Crackback, which is a sort of one of the many shows involving Beth Davenport and everything. And they said, well, go listen to Mitch Hampton, Journey of an Aesthete. And I'm forever grateful to them for doing that. And so there's that. While we're on the subject of the Rockford Files, I've also discovered that this past December, we lost Stuart Margolin. Great character actor, director, icon of the 70s. And he played a character on the Rockford Files named Angel Martin, who was a very slippery character who he defies all categorization. I mean, he's sort of in a way a villain, but yet he's likable, and he defies all. He's one of these classically 70s characters that will not give in or resist attempts to pin him down. He's very funny and he's very colorful. That's Stuart Margolin. Angel Martin was the character he became famous for, but he did many other things. Great director, by the way, too. Anyhow, he passed in December. Of course, you know about David Crosby. There's a lot going on. The thing about culture and the arts and aesthetics, of course, is that many people in a given generation or spanning several generations are contributing to this. They do many things. They may write music. They may be an actor. They may be a director. And they're like they come into the world, you know, and they may make a small mark, a big mark. They leave a mark and they trace. And sometimes it's good to remember them and sort of talk about them a little bit. Any event, I'm really excited about upcoming things. I'm going to be talking to Sam Wasson, who's a historian of Hollywood, chronicler of Hollywood. I'm talking to him tomorrow, so I'm recording that episode. Speaking of Hollywood, right now, if you listen to Todd Berliner's episode, that's all about Hollywood. So there's a little bit of a movie theme, Hollywood theme. And today, on this particular Friday, I'm going to talk a little bit about something that is both personal, but it's also a kind of it's also a little bit impersonal too, right? Because it involves a lot of human culture, you know, not just me, not just your host. And that is the question of really the overarching theme of our podcast, which is style and styles. That's a big topic. I mean, I think sort of the question of style is something that, you know, we could spend thousands of hours, millions of hours on, going through all those hours. And I guarantee you, if there were world enough in time, to quote Edmund Spencer's poem, is it Spencer? My Brit lit dyslexia is happening, so I'm sort of world enough in time. Andrew Marvell, that's the poet. We would never finish. There'd always be more to say, more to talk about, and it would all be valuable and all be relevant. That's how big style is. Style is like, and Yeah, Andrew Marvel. Hey, Stacy. Stacy's watching. I'm so excited. We have actually a live audience member watching. You can join in any event. I want to talk about personal experiences in my life that made me sort of the idiosyncratic person that I am today, and that loves all this stuff. And I'm going to show you something. Harold Pinter's No Man's Land. Yes, never. Look at this. An interview with Mike Nichols. That's just an article in this playbill. What he's been up to lately. I don't know. I guess at this time he was doing, what was he doing? 1977, 76. Oh, he was directing Comedians, Trevor Griffith's play, which I saw. So I'm 10 years old, and I'm in one of my summers in New York with my mom and my dad. And one of the things we got to see was John Gielgud, Sir John Gielgud, Sir Ralph. They weren't knighted yet, I don't think. Sir Ralph Richardson, Terrence Rigby, directed by Peter Hall, Pinter. No Man's Land. Now, I'm 10 years old, and my dad got these tickets, and we're going to go see this play. And wouldn't you know, I laugh because I don't know whether to laugh or cry. I don't know. Both. They hated it. Now, my dad was a theater maven, and a director, a playwright. They both shook their head. They couldn't make heads or tails of this play. Hated it. Hated it. Hated it. Hated it. They actually forced me to leave in intermission. So I only saw Act 1 of No Man's Land. And so basically it took me 30 years. It wasn't until 1995. My friend Jack Wright says, this Pinter, the strange playwright, they're doing his play at the ART. You want to see No Man's Land? I thought, yes, I was, but let me see Act 2. And there was a production, I think, by Patrick Stewart and not Christopher Walken. Oh God, my brains. This is the problem with aging brain. Christopher Plummer did a production of it, I think, in the 2000s, which I also watched. But leave it to YouTube, right? All of this production is on YouTube. Not going to play you the full production. I'm gonna start off with a little quote from. Here we go. Style. Now, this book, or this essay on style is sort of like, I don't know. It's kind of important. So I'm gonna talk about this, get into this Pinter. Okay, the antipathy to style is always an antipathy to a given style. There are no stylist works of art. Only works of art belonging to different, more or less complex stylistic traditions and conventions. Okay. This means that the notion of style, generically considered, has a specific historical meaning. It is not only that styles belong to a time and a place, and that our perceptions of the style of a given work of art is always charged with the awareness of the work's historicity, its place in a chronology. Further, the visibility of styles is itself a product of historical consciousness. Okay. Were it not for departures from or experimentation with previous artistic norms, which are known to us, we would never recognize the profile of a new style. Still further, the very notion of a style, quote unquote, needs to be approached historically. Awareness of style as a problematic and isolable element in a work of art has emerged in the audience for art only at certain historical moments, as a front behind which other issues, ultimately ethical and political, are being debated. The notion of having a style is one of the solutions that has arisen intermittently since the Renaissance, it's important, to the crisis that have threatened old ideas of truth, of moral rectitude, and also of naturalness. So, what is Susan Sontag telling us? And what is it? How does this all relate to that production of Gielgud and Richardson and Pinter? Well, I want to ask some questions. So, what does it mean for someone to be educated in the theater? Aubrey Hampton, my father, educated in the theater, had a theater company, was a Shavian, a scholar of George Bernard Shaw, knows more about George Bernard Shaw than I do, which is saying a lot because I've read Shaw, to reject Pinter. What does that mean? So there's a lot of questions. What does it mean to reject something that's objectively good? Because Pinter's actually great, not just good. I'm going to get to him and why he's great in a minute. What does that mean? What's going on with that? What is that about? It interests me. Actually, that question has been haunting me since I was 10 years old. I'm 55 now. I'm still interested in that question. What is that about? What is going on? It excites me. So here's the thing. I'm going to play the first few minutes of No Man's Land, and we're going to watch John Gielgud. Is these two old men in a English club. They're both artists, actually. They're both poets, and there's a strange. So, kind of in a way, what I was interested in when I saw that production is I watched this production, and I was so angry with my parents. I mean, I cannot even begin to tell you how angry I was with them for robbing me of Act Two. So what is that about? Why is a 10-year-old kid interested in these two old men going on about nothing? Whereas my educated, mature, sophisticated parents were totally bored and uninterested. What is that about? What's going on? It's interesting, right? Most 10-year-olds would have agreed with I think, then and now with my parents on that. So where are we here? Gotta cue something up. All right. Now this is a film. This is a filmed. Where are we here? So we're gonna pretend you're in the Longacre Theater and that it's. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, 75. So it was done in the same year. 75 National Theater, Longacre Theater, New York City. This was the television ground. Fantastic. Gonna hold this.
As it is?
As it is, yes, please, absolutely as it is. Thank you. How very kind of you. How very kind.
And cheers.
Your health.
Please help yourself.
Terribly kind of you. Your good health. What was it I was saying as we arrived at your door?
Let me see.
Yes, I was talking about strength. Do you recall?
Strength. Yes.
Yes, I was about to say, you see, that there are some people who appear to be strong, whose idea of what strength consists of is persuasive, but who inhabit the idea and not the fact. What they possess is not strength, but expertise. They have nurtured and maintained what is, in fact, a calculated posture. Half the time it works. It takes a man of intelligence and perception to stick a needle through that posture and discern the essential flabbiness of the stance. I am such a man.
You mean one of the latter?
One of the latter, yes, a man of intelligence and perception. Not one of the former. Oh, no, not at all. By no means. May I say how very kind it was of you to ask me in? In fact, you are kindness itself. Probably always are kindness itself. Now, and in England, and in Hampstead, and for all eternity. What a remarkably pleasant room. I feel at peace here, safe from all danger. But please don't be alarmed. I shan't stay long. I never stay long with others. They do not wish it. And that for me is a happy state of affairs. My only security, you see, my true comfort and solace rests in the confirmation that I elicit from people of all kinds a common and constant level of indifference. It assures me that I am as I think myself to be, that I am fixed, concrete. To show interest in me, or, good gracious, anything tending towards a positive liking of me would cause in me a condition of the acutest alarm. Fortunately, the danger is remote. I speak to you with this startling candor because you are clearly a reticent man, which appeals, and because you are
Well, so that's a bit of a monologue, right? And this other character is listening to this old man. Now, there's a lot of things in here that at the age of 10 I did not understand clearly. I don't know. I didn't know. Couldn't have comprehended the queer or gay context, or even the notion of being in a drawing room like that, or any of that really. You know, so there were things I was missing in that, but I found it absolutely fascinating. The thing that I was fascinated by was the minute second-to-second relationship of one human being with another and what is going on with that. I found this absolutely riveting. Now, that's what Pinner does. So Pinner has a style. He invented a style, really, actually, in theater, where I think the minute-to-minute, second-to-second transaction, if I can use that word, actually, that's my word for it, is where the action is, the drama. And that was his career in his films with Joseph Losey, like Accident and The Go-Between. And I could play The Homecoming with Vivian Merchant. I'm not going to play all that. I was fascinated by that. Now, there's absolutely no rational explanation why I found that absolutely fascinating and why my folks did not dig it at all and were angered by it. So typically the answers people give, like when you ask, well, why doesn't somebody like something, is they usually say something to the following. They usually say, it's a problem of comprehension. That, it's that you don't understand. If only, you did the effort, the work, you put in the work, you educated yourself, indulged your curiosity, then you will eventually like it. That's a common answer. I am skeptical of that answer. I think it's Panofsky or E.H. Gomber says it's the opposite. Gomber says that if you don't initially have a liking to something, you'll never actually be inclined to actually then comprehend it. So it's kind of an interesting. So I'm not sure it's entirely. I'm not saying that comprehension doesn't play a role, but clearly this can't be comprehension. I mean, clearly, clearly it's one thing. It's basically when I am going to a theater to sit down and watch a play, I have a conception in my mind of what a play is. That is, if two men are talking, they better be talking about in a certain way about certain kinds of things, and that there has to be some kind of action in that. And if it did, so it's basically, it's either giving me something I do not want or expect, and so I reject it. So it's actually violating my notion of play, or of a scene of two people, two human beings, or some kind of reverse. It's actually giving me something, the play, whatever it is, any object, this book, it's giving me something that I do not want at all. And that actually is not the definition I'm looking for. I want the definition. I'm going to sit in my chair. I'm going to watch a play. It's got to have Shaw. My dad loved Shaw. It could be anything. It's not trying to disparage Shaw, but Shaw is in a way very different, even though both Shaw and Pinter are English, or Irish or what have you. Shaw's case, Irish. And even though they both are, putting people on a stage in front of you sit in chairs and you're watching two people doing stuff. I mean, think of all the theater, which is really the same as this, not that different. So it raises a lot of questions. So I thought, wow, this is really interesting. I'm not going to write that book on what that's about. That's actually a project for, psychology, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm thinking about style. This is a style of stagecraft that's very beautiful. And there's a lot going on here between these two men. And there's gangsters enter the play. And there's so much happens. There's actually psychological violence, and it has to do with, it's just a lot going on. I found it fascinating. My parents did not like it, rejected it. That's not a rational thing, anymore. Can you explain why I wanted to do music? It's the same thing, or someone that doesn't want to do music. These are mysterious things, and basically, hopefully human beings follow what they're interested in, follow their passions. And so I thought, well, interesting. I'm gonna try to find different scenes involving two characters like this, and see what we can come up with that's kind of contrast or different. I thought that would be kind of interesting. I don't know if it'll work, but we'll see. We'll see. It's tough, Where am I here? Here we go.
And anyway,
I'm going to play something from a movie, not a play. And it's from a relatively contemporary movie by a former guest of ours, Andrew Bajowski. It's from Mutual Appreciation. And this is two people talking in a kitchen. And
I can't be involved with you in any way. And I think you're a beautiful woman or girl, whichever you prefer. I just can't do it. And what?
I mean, I wasn't trying to be your girlfriend or anything.
No.
I mean, you go.
Okay. No, I know.
That's too short a scene, actually. I sort of feel like that was they're just trying to. The person that made this video is just trying to kind of, But that actually, those few seconds are I think kind of fantastic for those two kids. But what do I know? What do we got here? Here we got something.
What's the number?
204.
It's on the second book. Good. Beautiful. You have.
I wasn't sure anymore.
Now we're gonna go to something older. Actually, the same year as the Pinter play, 78, off by a few years. So we're going round, and this is again a male and a female, and this is a TV movie.
Is it okay?
Yeah, come on in.
Ain't that wrong? It's awful late. Oh, I'm sorry. I had to talk to Derek. Anything I can do? Thanks. Okay, don't y'all stay up too late now. Okay, you need your sleep. Good night.
Come on. You want a drink or something?
Derek, do you like me?
Yes.
I wasn't sure anymore.
Well, be sure.
I felt really hurt that you didn't like me enough to sleep with me, and that's why I said all those mean things. But I didn't mean them. And I know now that sleeping together is not everything.
I have to tell you something. I was scared, and see, I'm not as experienced as you are, and I
But
thought.
what makes you think that I'm so experienced, Derek? I told you. I had never made love with anyone before. Didn't you believe me?
I wasn't sure.
You'd be the first. I just want to be with you.
That's sweet. So all those scenes are two people, male and female, two old men. You can do a lot just putting two people in a room. And so there's different styles even within like people in close proximity. It's kind of interesting to me. So it's kind of a it's hard to cue everything up here, but you got to do it. You got to cue it up. Trying to two people. This is from okay, Stacy's asking what that last clip was. That last clip is from a wonderful TV movie called Young Love, First Love with Valerie Bertinelli and Timothy Hutton from 1979, TV movie. Now we're going to one of the greatest movies ever made, Blow Up, Antonioni. And this is Vanessa Redgrave and David Hemmings.
Who is it?
Now, this is interesting. Talk, back and forth. The woman speaks, the man speaks. I don't, the black and white where the two characters are like, I like you, I don't like you, and kind of awkwardness and also seriousness. So it can be solemn, it can be playful, it can be embarrassing. This is Antonioni. This is in a whole other universe. Similar material, but landscape and using architecture of a room, and very Pinterish because it's space and silence, as you'll see. And just kind of, this interests me a little bit. Hope we can. I should say something very important in this film. In the context of this film, he's supposed to be David Bailey, the famous fashion photographer of the swinging 60s. And she's Vanessa Redgrave, a woman who he was surreptitiously photographing without her consent when she was cavorting with possibly a lover in the park. And so that's the plot narrative background. And so she wants that film. She's like, I want the film. So there is a kind of a conventional sort of power dynamic or suspense narrative. Is she going to get the film? And so that it helps to know that context of their discussion. But even getting the, I think the conventional aspect of that, I think Antonio does a whole other thing with that. This is good to know that. Just so you know that that's Vanessa Redgrave.
Drink?
What's so important about my bloody pictures?
That's my business.
The light was very beautiful in the park this morning. A shot should be very good. Anyway, I need them.
My private life's already in a mess. It would be a disaster if...
So what?
Look at that beam.
Nothing like a little disaster for sorting things out.
Beautiful.
You ever done any modeling? Fashion stuff, I mean. You got it. Oh, Dad. Not many girls can stand as well as that.
No thanks, I'm in a hurry.
You'll get your pictures. I promise. I always keep my word. Come here.
Now, that scene goes on for like 20 minutes, and they don't get it on. Like, it's not a conventional scene. I mean, he treats her like as if she were a professional model and says, let's see how you sit. And she sort of plays along with him, and it's kind of and so that's an interesting case of taking sort of familiar plot. But, you know, Antonioni is interested in the beams. He's interested in that's a formal. And so we've looked at these different scenes, like a black and white of these two kids in the kitchen, and it's very earnest and it's emotions very raw. And then the world of Antonioni of these two sophisticated adults. It's not quite so immediate and raw. Those are all styles. It's a styles of presenting two people together. And I could go on and on. There's so many examples. All these are wonderful examples. And it all goes back to that play of those two men, John Gielgud and Ralph Richardson, on the stage, sitting in those chairs. And it's kind of the idea of paying attention to the minute second to second thing, that there's always something going on with the human being. And the important thing is to pay attention to it. And Pinter wrote that so we could pay attention to those two men that drinking in that room. And that's one of the things art can be about, is whether it's teenagers or older people, that's just styles of presenting human relationship. So I thought that would be something to talk about today. And I'm sure I've left some other things out, but I think that's a good, we're at a half hour. I'm going to end it now and say something to think about, of different styles of presenting human representation in art, film, stage, screen, and so on. So to be continued. So look for my show with Todd Berliner and upcoming episodes. That's all for now. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.